Man, it's been a long time trying to get on this show. You've been filming, you've been
Yeah.
training people, including myself,
Hmm.
and it has been a great journey. But also, we talk a lot on the phone, so I feel
Yeah.
like we we get a lot of our time and nerding out together. But for the good folks of the internet, today I am joined by Mr. Joe Cebula. If you are Russian, it sounds even cooler, Cebula. But
Cebula.
if you're also a Star Wars fan, it's not Sebulba. So
I get
just
that all the
saying.
time.
I
Yeah.
know I know that stinks. But at least though you have the martial art capability to knock them out when it gets too much.
That's
But
true. There's
Mr.
there's a certain level of confidence that comes with knowing that you can knock a guy out, I guess.
That is very true. And not just because you work out, but I'm talking specifically about your martial arts background, your swordsmanship skills.
Hmm.
A lot of this that I feel like the 10-year-old you was like when you got into fantasy, you were like, I'm going to make this my career. So, that long winded intro, so to speak, I want to welcome my friend Joe. I hope that you're doing well today on this beautiful Monday evening.
I am outstanding. I'm excited to be here. Like you said, it's been a long journey getting on the show. And we
Yes.
just happened to be on the phone the other day, and you were like,
Yep.
"Oh, by the way, what are you doing Monday?" And I said, "I'm doing your show. Let's make this happen."
It is perfect. It's
Hmm.
quite honestly a good timing. Tis a good omen. But a lot of folks I think on the internet know you for fitness and for being a
Hmm.
martial artist. But a lot of folks don't know that a lot of folks in that space do know that you're nerdy, but not a lot of nerds know that you are nerdy. They see you as this like personal trainer kind of jock. And I want to ask you, when did you start getting into fantasy, specifically Dungeons and Dragons?
So the first time I played Dungeons and Dragons was probably my freshman year in college. I had heard of it. I had played Magic the Gathering in high school. I was a gamer. I mean, I had the SNES. Used to play Final Fantasy and that kind of a thing. Very very small town. Not a lot of options there. But when I got to college, some friends that I was hanging out with had a lot of experience, and one of them was like, "Hey, we should roll." And I was all about it. And we played a couple of games, and I absolutely fell in love with it. It was just so fun. And to me, coming from really just that video game background, the way that the numbers and the odds and the rolling of the dice sort of informed the game, it felt very like a very well designed video game. And that just kind of got the wheels in my mind turning, and they just haven't stopped.
Do you remember what edition you played?
I believe we were playing third edition at the time.
Nice.
Yeah.
What class were you?
The first game I played, we did some pre-rolled characters, and I drew the barbarian.
There you go. That's kind
Yeah.
of fitting. I'm not gonna lie. That is fitting to be your first time. It's such a great character class to like dive into and really get to know the game. But
Mhm.
you stated that you started playing in college. Did you maintain that campaign or was it just a one shot?
So we just did that one shot as like a little teaser, and
Okay.
we had a ton of fun and decided we would actually roll characters and play again. And I think we only ever actually played one other time before we just got busy with other things. I
Yeah.
was really into the martial arts in college, so being on the University of Iowa Collegiate National Taekwondo team ended up taking a lot of my time, and we just didn't have a lot of opportunities to hang out like we did that first year.
Oh, that's awesome. So,
Mhm.
well, not awesome that you couldn't play in a campaign,
It
but
it it
awesome.
it left that taste in my mouth where I'd been searching for that ever since, right? And honestly, like that first adventure, I still have, vivid memories of some of the stuff that we did during that adventure. And then the second character was actually the first character I rolled up was a really interesting character. And I should actually just tell the story since this is sort of a nerdy podcast. But I rolled up. I was into WCW wrestling,
Yeah.
so like WCW versus
Yeah.
NWO was hot back in
Oh, yeah.
the early 2000s. And so I wanted to do like a luchador, but I wanted him to be a dwarf. So I did this dwarven wrestler character. And what was hilarious was I rolled really good. We were just doing rolled stats, and I ended up rolling really good to the point where his grapple was killing low level bad guys. So I'm like, I'm going to grapple this guy and then I'll, body slam him or do something cool. And it's just the act of me grabbing him did enough damage that I never really got to do any cool wrestling moves.
You squeezed them to death.
Just squeezed him to death.
I appreciate that. As a low tier grappler, a faux grappler, perhaps even. I appreciate that. I'd hope to have that strength one day. Incorporate that into the program.
Just saying. Yeah. It's a higher level. I mean, it takes a lot of training and dedication to get to the point where once you go hands on, the person you're rolling with dies, but
grip strength.
That's a lot of grip strength.
Yeah. This is some Goku level training.
Yeah.
But so going from the collegiate team and whatnot, and I'm assuming you were traveling to compete and traveling for tournaments and whatnot. Did you ever maintain some of that like nerdy spark? Like, were you like writing characters or building characters or writing for your world or anything where like that? Or were you just kind of putting that in the back burner during that? It was time?
All that during that time. I mean, I was very, very like focused on just the martial arts. Even school itself was almost secondary. I had already progressed far enough, especially by my senior year. I'd already fulfilled all my degree requirements. So my senior year was all in on just, being a captain of the Taekwondo team, traveling, doing that thing. I'd also started the Komdo team. So we were doing the sword fighting thing had begun by then. And so we were traveling for that as well. And so a lot of the stuff that kind of kept the fire burning, it was a lot of reading books, a lot of music. I've played guitar since high school, and just studying music was like another outlet for me for that stuff. And of course, gaming, just video gaming. Yeah. And that a lot to me is just the utter convenience of being able to go home, fire up a game, play at your own pace. You're not trying to coordinate schedules with other people. And that kept the fire burning well enough until I got to a point where it was like, all right, now I can sit down and I can really get into this stuff.
It's almost like a shifting of gears because as a captain, I'm assuming you probably had a lot on your plate, not only for tournaments and your actual practice, but you have the operational and the logistical part of it too, that you have to coordinate. Because you're the student captain at the time, correct? Besides, like, then you have your coach and whatnot. But there is, I know, a time where you did move to Korea. Was that after graduation, or was that during your time in college?
Yeah, and something I'll say, I think kind of being the captain of the team, a co-captain, I mean, I was going to seminars. That was a really, really important part of my experience with the team. It was, somebody who was a national champion or even a world champion, an Olympic competitor, would be putting on a seminar of like, here's how I train and here's what you can learn. And I would go and I would take copious notes and I would start studying what their methods were. I learned more about like plyometrics and body weight training. I learned more about weight training. I got introduced to Olympic weightlifting through the martial arts. Like, it was all the way, what can I do? What can I do for the team? And so when you think about like nerddom, right? Like I had that taste of D&D and sort of the number crunching and putting the system together. That was overtaken by the athletic part of that, where I was nerding out about training modalities and understanding, how to get a person who was at point A to point B where they were, a viable competitor. And so I think a lot of that was there. When I graduated and I actually started working, I was working in television for a while, for a couple of years at a local TV station, local news, nothing super flashy there, and just sort of working my way up, doing some video production on the side. And I had kept active, obviously, with the martial arts. So I had a new school that I was training at, and I was teaching sword fighting. And I had the opportunity to go and compete in Vancouver at the World Komdo Association World Championships. And so my master, Master Jun, is like the head guy of the whole thing. He actually moved from South Korea to the US to kind of found the WKA and start teaching, his style. And so I was one of his students. It was through Taekwondo contacts that I met him, and he asked if I was interested, and that sort of led to me getting involved in this whole thing. So I flew to Vancouver, and I had taken, just because I'm doing Taekwondo over here and I'm doing Komdo over here, and you're learning Hana dual set net, like how to punch, how to kick, and some of that language, chariot kunye and blah, 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 blah. I took a Korean language course. And so I
Oh,
had a
cool.
year of Korean under my belt by the time I went to Vancouver. So Master Jun asked me to go to the airport and help coordinate rides for the Korean national team back to the hotel. And so I'm meeting all these high level, ranking masters of this association one at a time coming out of the airport and helping them get checked into the hotel. And they were just super impressed with my ability to communicate. And then even after the tournament, we're hanging out in this big city, and I've got, these Koreans over here. We had a team from Russia over here. We had a team from England. We had a team from, I think Taipei was there. And it was like everybody spoke a little bit of English. There was at least one person on each team that spoke Korean. And then, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And somehow everybody had exact change for the bus. And we went to the zoo that day, and it was great. So when I left, we spent a full week in Vancouver. If somebody's going to travel across the ocean to come to a tournament, they're not just going to leave like that Monday. And so we traveled around Vancouver. And again, we had, lifelong friendships that were forged during that. And a little while later, I got an email from one of the masters who said, "It was so fun hanging out. You should come to Korea." And I was just kind of like, "Yeah, I should. Like, is that viable?" And he was like, "Yeah, absolutely." And he set this whole thing up for me where I came over on a visa as an English teacher. I had a really, really good job, and I spent most of my time studying directly under him at his school in South Korea. So I lived there for 14 months.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And crazy to think about those experiences and the fact that, and I'm going to be honest for the folks listening, your network is your net worth. I don't care how much money you have in the bank. The people that you know, the people that you love is truly the value of your life. And I feel like, you're talking about the different teams. And I thought to myself, man, that's like a massive adventuring party, all just going about doing some cool things. And of course, my mind just goes to that. But, a question that I do want to ask, though, with your background in the martial arts, how did you transition, though, into fitness and running gyms and programming for what I would like to say a more strength training modality?
So
how was that transition?
If you recognize that the core of all of this is sort of a nerdiness, right? When I started learning Taekwondo, I was nerding out about Taekwondo, right? When I started learning about plyometrics, I really got into how does this work? How do you quantify this? I was reading training manuals on it. So every aspect of the martial arts became sort of that thing, that focus of mine. And that led me to living in Korea, where guess what I was doing? I was really nerding out on the sword fighting. I was all in on that. I was very hyper focused. I was training very hard, nerding out on the language, the culture, the cuisine, right? Really immersing myself in that experience. And I think all of that sort of accumulates. If you look at these separate parts of my life and kind of how they all came together to land me at the head of a gym, it just made perfect sense. It was like, of course, you've had all this experience with Taekwondo. You've had all this experience with sword fighting and living overseas, right? You've had all this experience training athletes at the university. Because, I mean, I came up with the strength and conditioning program that the team followed that led us to our second place finish at nationals for 2 years. I was also training football players. D1 football players were coming up to learn boxing techniques from me and my coach so that they could be better defensive linemen. And so I had all these little bits and pieces of experience. And then, of course, like I said, I graduated college. I went to a different school. I was training with one of my friend coaches who had a school in the town I was living in. And of course, I'm teaching classes there. And then it was like, well, not just teaching martial arts classes, but then you're teaching kickboxing classes and then kickboxing fitness classes. And then you're teaching people how to lift weights. And then basically you're doing the personal training thing. And your certification is that you've got a couple of black belts and a couple of different martial arts. When I moved from Iowa, where I was living, up to the Twin Cities, I didn't have anything. I was basically starting over. I was divorced. I was broke. I had to find a job. I got an office job, which I enjoyed, but it wasn't my passion by any means. And I started looking for something else to do. I got into P90X for a little while. And then a friend of mine came up and he was like, hey, can I crash at your place for this weekend? Because I'm doing a seminar up there. And I was like, yeah, of course, come on up. And he was my buddy Ethan. He was a member of the Taekwondo team. We were roommates back in college. So of course, yeah, come crash at my place. And he was doing his CrossFit certification. And he was so fired up about it. Like he came back, he's like, dude, this is what we were looking for in college. This is the kind of training, the team atmosphere, everything. And so I started going to CrossFit St. Paul and I just fell in love with it. And so I was a very, very regular at like the 10 a.m. class at CrossFit St. Paul for about 6 months. And then they were hosting the level 1 course. And so I just signed up. I dropped the money, bought the $1,000 t-shirt, and I got that certification. And so here I am now. I've got a CrossFit level 1. Yeah, I've lost a bunch of weight, right? Like I was lean when I was a fighter. I gained a bunch of weight after I came back from Korea, and I got lean again pretty quick. And a friend of mine, a martial arts contact that I had trained with in the Twin Cities, and we were just catching up. And I was like, oh, by the way, I got my CrossFit certificate. And she was like, oh my God, I got mine too. She's like, in fact, all the Taekwondo coaches at the World Taekwondo Academy went and got them together. And she's like, in fact, they're looking for a CrossFit coach at CrossFit Twin Cities. And so I was like, well, cool, maybe I'll check it out. So she's like, yeah, I'll set up an interview with you and Coach Lee. And so I was like, great. And so the day comes and I have to drive all the way across the cities, and I step into to Master Lee's office, and he's just sitting back at his desk, and he's like, where do I know you from? And I recognized him right away. I was like, oh, that Mr. Lee. Now, Lee, obviously, in Korea is kind of like the Smith of the Western world. It's like a very common name. So I would never have thought, but it was like, you were on the U.S. national team. I was on the University of Iowa collegiate national team. So we were at seminars. We were at tournaments. Like all the people you trained with were people that I knew. And he was like, and he knew my coach and he knew like kind of my pedigree. And he was just like, dude, welcome home. And he had me teach a couple of Taekwondo classes. He's like, yeah, no worries, man. And on a handshake, he gave me 50% of CrossFit Twin Cities. And I ran that gym for a decade. And that was kind of how I got my foot in the door. And then, of course, now my new nerdy obsession became all things CrossFit. So I got my CrossFit level 1, and then I got CrossFit weightlifting and CrossFit movement mobility and CrossFit gymnastics and like CrossFit powerlifting. Like I went to every seminar I could get to. And then I was like, that to your point of like your network is your net worth. It wasn't the specific things that I was learning at a seminar. Like when I went to the powerlifting seminar, that was cool. I really enjoyed learning about powerlifting, but the people I met became such assets that when I was coaching somebody and they had a particular issue, I would say, I know just the person to ask about that. Yeah. And being able to connect all those different pieces, really like CrossFit was really the liberal arts of the fitness realm of just like a little bit of everything. Right.
It's true.
But after, a decade of doing that full time, like I kind of figured a lot of stuff out, and again, if you look at how I started of just sort of like nerding out about one thing, it just led me there. That was the natural progression,
So when you got into CrossFit and you started to teach and you kind of started to, I'm assuming, teach a wide variety of people, you progressed further and further and you met Bobby. Right?
Yeah.
Was that through Jim Jones?
Yes.
Or was that through a CrossFit?
Yes and no. The story of the meeting of these two legends, it has multiple origins.
Yes.
So the way that I tell the story is my same friend, he had his 40th, and he was like, hey, for my birthday this year, let's go get the Jim Jones level 1 certificate. They had 3 levels. Yeah. And the level 1 was just a weekend course that you could take. And they were hosting one in St. Louis, and he still lived down in like Iowa City area. So it wasn't that far away. So I was like, yeah, cool. I'll come on down. We'll drive down there together. So me, him, and his now wife, we drove down there together. And he and I did this seminar. And so we're sitting in the seminar, meeting Bobby. Lisa was there. This was even before they got married. And I was just impressed. I didn't expect anybody from Salt Lake. I thought this was going to be like some no-name coach who's probably running it, and we'll get a peek behind the curtain or whatever. But it was Bobby Maximus himself, and he was funny. He is who he is. But I was wearing a T-shirt that just said Iowa and had like the Hawkeye symbol on it. Yeah. And so we were just in a little 15-minute break after we were talking about our nutrition or something, and I sat back, and he was like, "Ooh, Iowa." He's like, "I lost a fight in Iowa one time," and I was like, "Really?" He's like, yeah, I was going for a world kickboxing title and some punk named Trent Tompkins knocked me out. I was there. I trained with Trent. So I was on the opposite team. He was some punk. And I mean, obviously, he wasn't fighting as Bobby Maximus back in, I think it was like 2001, 2002 when that fight happened. It was Robert McDonald. And he
Yeah, I was
was
gonna say it
just,
was still his legal name.
yeah, it was just, he was just some punk coming into town. He had no idea who he was going up against. Trent was a legend. They used to call him Thunderfoot. And he had just been annihilating dudes in the ring. And again, a national level taekwondo fighter who decided he liked being in the ring because there were ropes around a
Yeah.
kickboxing ring and people couldn't escape. In a
Yeah.
taekwondo ring, there's no ropes. And so he was like, this is where I belong because I can just finish people off. And yeah, that fight lasted, I don't know, 32 seconds or whatever. And Bobby woke up in Detroit on his way back to Canada. But I laughed. I just laughed because I was like, oh my God, I actually remember this. But like I never made that connection because this is Bobby Maximus. That was Robert McDonald. But
Yeah,
we
for sure.
had a good laugh about that. We had lunch and we just became fast friends. And then it was just like we just kept in touch. And I continued to I got fully certified through the Jim Jones method. And a lot of that was because I was just going to hang out with cool people in Salt Lake City and hang out with Bobby. And, I got to train in his garage gym and just a real strong friendship kind of budded out of that shared history.
So when did you find out that he was a mega nerd?
I think I'm going to have to, God, it was early on. I mean, he was still with Jim Jones. And I remember him telling me a story about, I think he got a foil Force of Will.
Ooh.
Just like he drew it in a pack. Him and his son were at the local game shop and they just drew it. Because the story he tells is that he was like, oh my God, Beans, like this, he calls his son Beans. He's like, this is like a super cool card. Like, you got to take care of that. And Beans was like, yeah. So he just slipped it in his pocket and then went into the bathroom. And the guy that owned the store was like in the urinal next to him. And he was like, oh, hey, man, look what I got. And he was like stopped midstream and like had to go get like a special case to put it in and like do this whole thing. And I thought that was funny. And then it was like, oh, but yeah, you're into magic, huh? And that kind of just started that. And obviously I was more into like D&D at that time. Got really into like tabletop games. Some of the Fantasy Flight stuff where you had like the companion app because it scratches the itch when you can't get a group together. Having a way to play something fantasy oriented, something nerd oriented was always kind of my thing. And so it was adjacent. And it was only recently, actually, he got me into Magic. And so now I've got 13 commander decks that I've built just in the last year.
13? Oh, dude, you got the bug. You got the bug hard. So that actually kind of goes into the direction that I wanted to steer into, where you basically started to get back into D&D with your friendship with Bobby. Yeah. And did you start running games or did you just start playing? Or both?
It's kind of funny. I went to another longtime friend of mine had a birthday party. And I was at this birthday party. I didn't know a lot of the other guys there. It was a lot of like his work friends. And so me and my wife were kind of hanging out. And I heard somebody say something about the Adventure Zone. If you know that podcast with the McElroy brothers. And I was a huge fan. And so I jumped into that conversation and that became a gaming group. So one of the other guys that was there is a very experienced gamer. And he put a game together for us. And so we all got together and that just became sort of like our group. And after a couple of games, I was like, I think I want to DM. I think I want to create this stuff. And so I started asking my friend about like, how do I set it up? I started making phone calls to other people that I know, sending out Instagram messages. And I just built up enough confidence to say, yeah, I think I've got a good grasp of the system, a good grasp of how to play it. And I just threw it all out there. And actually the first night that I ever officially DM'd a game was also the last day that I actually worked at CrossFit Twin Cities.
Oh, wow.
So it was sort of like that ended and the other thing officially began at that point, which was, I didn't know that at the time. That's just kind of how things worked out. And then it just kind of became a regular thing. And that game went well and they wanted more. And so I put more effort into it. And prior to COVID, we were meeting at least once a month and running games regularly for a group of 4 to 5 people at a time, just depending on who could show up. And then obviously COVID screwed up a lot of stuff for a lot of people. We played online,
Yeah.
but it just wasn't the same. And now right now we're actually in the conversation of, okay, when are we going to get back together?
And it's interesting that you brought the once a month aspect because, like you said earlier, you're in production, you're in television and cinema production. So once a month in that line of business, plus being in the fitness industry as well, that's like once or twice a week for everyone else. So what did you run when you were playing once a month? Were you doing a homebrew or were you doing
Yeah.
like a campaign module? Okay. So
Yeah.
you were doing a homebrew world.
This is my secret. If you want to know my secret to getting really, really
Spill
good
the
at homebrew.
tea. Spill the
So
tea.
the first system that I played since playing, 3rd edition D&D back in college was Dungeon Crawl Classics.
Oh, such a good, yeah.
And I just loved the artwork. I loved the flavor of it. And so I went out and I bought. So obviously I had like the manual for the system, but I went out and I bought like a collection of modules. And I think this is probably the best tip. If you want to DM, if you want to game, you should always be reading something, right? And so I would sit and read modules like before bed, and it just plants these seeds in these ideas. And I got really into The Witcher. I was really into Skyrim. I used to play Skyrim and mod the hell out of it.
Wait, you like The Witcher?
No.
I mean, I can't tell by your apparel. That's beautiful.
Yeah, this is from the concert. Percival, the band that did the music,
right,
toured. It was amazing.
Oh, lucky.
Yeah,
lucky.
that was an amazing show.
You said you modded Skyrim?
Oh yeah, yeah.
A man of culture, I see.
Yes. Oh, I have so many fun Skyrim stories. But even so, like all of that stuff and all the gaming I did, like playing Legend of Zelda back in high school and playing Final Fantasy, like now I've got this system that I can play that I'm comfortable with. I've got all these ideas of, little adventures that you can run your party through. And I just started tying them together. So my first campaign that I ran was all homebrew, but it was all inspired by other things. So I did a whole, the map of the original Legend of Zelda. I went through and drew out on paper. Those were my maps. And like my players didn't recognize it right away, but there were like specific challenges on each like screen as they would like go. I would like move the next screen up.
Cool.
They got stuck in the Lost Woods and they had to like Google the way to get out of the Lost Woods. And it was fun and hilarious because again, these are all, sort of like-minded people and they get those references and they get those jokes. And so, I did a temple that ended up being like right out of Raiders of the Lost Ark. They had to run from the ball and all that stuff. Like there were all these little bits and pieces, but they were all flavored by all these different modules that I had run. And so there was always like, they could figure their way out if they could get the joke. And that just became kind of addicting. And eventually we sort of wrapped up a story a lot just because it's hard to just keep meeting regularly and getting people together. And we got the Witcher tabletop RPG. And so then it was, let's try running that. And so we just jumped into that. And I ran a whole campaign on that. And then one of our friends from the group was like, hey, I want to DM that. And he ran a whole campaign on that. And so it just sort of, little give and take. Sometimes you get to play, sometimes you get to DM. But I really, really enjoy homebrew stuff. Now, that's not to say that I won't run a regular, module, whether that's DCC or a 5e type thing. I think they're all great. It just depends to me of how much time I have to put into it. Because like you said, if I'm on a film set, there is no time. And if you want me to run something, it's going to be quick out of a book without a lot of thinking. And that's just how it has to be.
I love a couple of things that you said. One, that you rotated the GM spot because I don't see a lot of people willing to do that. I think that's actually one of our biggest problems in our hobby space is that there are too many people who want a table and not enough people who want to sit down behind the DM screen and actually run a game. So I love the way that y'all are doing that. To build off on that, I like the way that you utilize different systems and you're not beholden to one specific one, right? Like,
that's actually really important to me because the rules are there to like give you a game to play, right?
For
Like the
sure.
rules help you to build the world. But if you're like, it's the old rules lawyering thing. If we're going to
Yeah,
get in there and be like arguing the details on a particular page in a particular paragraph, like what are we even having fun anymore?
I
Like
100%
let the
agree.
game serve that. And there's always, and I've said this for years, there's always going to be situations where you're not sure what the right path is, and
For
you just
sure.
have to make that ruling in the moment, and you have to be confident enough to make a ruling that makes some level of sense,
Yep.
and then confident enough to just deal with the consequences of that, and then also intelligent enough to make a note of that and go look it up later, because that situation may come up again and you might want to do that differently.
And then one thing that I love that a lot of folks I think are getting into now is D&D 5e allowed for so much home
Mhm.
brewing, gunslinger class. We're going to homebrew this, and that. And they try to squeeze, a round block into a triangular little hole. And you
Yeah.
can't do that sometimes. Like, are we even playing D&D if we're
Mhm.
avoiding some of those things or just manipulating it? So one thing that I wanted to ask you, and this is actually in regards to choosing players, because obviously you've known these people, but it's 2025. Things are kind of interesting in our space where we're getting a lot of people from different walks of life who've
Mhm.
never played a fantasy game or played video games. So they think certain actions are normal, right? Certain
Right.
behaviors normal. And in your particular experience, what's it like having to choose or having to kind of talk to people and teach people these games? And how do you go about doing that, right? You really do have a teaching history
Yeah.
in the sense of like teaching folks certain movement patterns and strength
Mhm.
patterns and whatnot. How does that transition into teaching about TTRPGs, and what's your experience been like?
I think coming from a position of privilege of like I have had to stand in front of large groups of people and
Yeah,
teach, and then also all the one-on-one stuff. So this like interpersonal communication, it's refined. I don't
yeah,
have to think about it as much. But I will say when I'm showing somebody a game, I will let them sort of understand the parameters. Here's what the rules will allow you to do. And within that, you can kind of come up with anything you want. And they're like, well, what if I wanted to do X, Y, or Z? And I can say, that's possible. We can find a way to make that happen. But what you have to understand is I will always have some consequence. And sometimes
yeah,
it's going to be a really good thing. And sometimes you're not going to like it so much. And
yeah,
so, depending on the choices you make, I also have to make choices. And if we're sitting at a table with four other people, it's going to affect a group dynamic. And so
absolutely.
the big thing for me is before the game starts is to have, if it isn't a full blown session zero, have conversation zero.
Sure.
Say, this is what I have prepared. I've got this idea here. I've got this story. We're doing this one shot today. I've got some really wild parts to this that are going to get kind of funny and out of control. And I want you guys to embrace that. And I want you guys to push it on that. Or we're doing a very traditional, if we're doing like a Lord of the Rings thing, I want to
Mhm.
keep it Lord of the Ringsy. So you
Yeah,
can make your jokes about stuff, but I'm probably not going to allow a whole lot of like frivolity in that situation. And I think as long as you have that conversation up front, it helps give the players the guidelines.
yeah. The theme, I think talking about themes in a session zero is really important to your
Mm-hmm.
point, where like in Tolkien, yes, we have Merry and Pippin as like comedic background, and again, who doesn't love them?
Yeah.
Well, Gandalf, but sorry, I answered my own question there. But um truthfully speaking, Gandalf did not like them all the time.
Yeah.
But there's the certain tropes of D&D, such as like the bard flirting with every person and thing, like that wouldn't fly in a One Ring or a Lord of the Rings
Yeah.
5e game. So I think that's really important. But with all this being said, kind of merging the fitness and our nerd space, I'm gonna kind of change tones because it's
Mm-hmm.
something you and I have talked about. Um, and I think a lot of folks need to hear it in the audience, where I think we, in our beloved TTRPG hobby are facing something really big. And I think it's related to health and fitness. I, having been a former 270-pound, 5'5" man,
Mhm.
that really truly, like, I can sugarcoat it. I can say I was pursuing a powerlifting, career, so to speak. Louis Simmons, in my opinion, was one of the best coaches. God rest his
Yeah.
soul. Like the
Amen.
way he did things, like West Side Barbell is always going to be West Side Barbell, even without him there. But then again, like you have Eddie Cohen, he's a
Mhm.
goat. You have Dan Green, who's another amazing athlete. Is it ETS or
Yeah.
um yeah, though that crew amazing,
Mhm.
right? And I could sugarcoat that I was trying to do all that, but at the end of the day, I made certain choices and I was not healthy, and I was not even the best. Because I was unhealthy, I was not the best game master to my players, which
Yeah.
I feel some guilt about because I was lazy, I was groggy, and all these other things.
Mhm.
So it's a long-winded way of saying I think we have a bit of a problem. And I want to understand your perspective on this. Maybe I'm just going crazy. Maybe it's my own experience where I see, like, okay, I found this new lease on life, right? And being healthy helped me enjoy gaming more, and it helped me enjoy playing with my friends. It helped
Mhm.
me to go to a convention and actually be awake for 16 to 18 hours just gaming and
Yeah.
not feel like death. And I never got the the con crud, as they call it, because
Mhm.
I maintained a level of health throughout the year. So my first question, it's kind of a multi-part. Are we facing some sort of problem within the hobby of health and fitness? And if so, why should we pursue health and fitness even in this space?
There's a lot of ways that I think I can answer that question. So I'll try a couple different approaches to this. I think yes. But I think it's always kind of been there.
Mm,
We're in a bit of a revolutionary period here where the popularity of the hobby has really, it's not an underground thing anymore. It
yeah.
used to be something that only geeky nerds played in their mom's basement, sort of a thing. Like that was the thing. It's like I wasn't on the football team. I wasn't popular in school, but I had my gaming group, and that's well and good. I think everybody needs a community, and I think that's fine. But it's gotten so popular now that different worlds are really mixing around the table. And
Mhm.
and I said this earlier. I mean, there's been moments where I'm at a local game shop, setting up a table to play, with some friends of mine, and I'm just looking around this room, and it's amazing because the room is packed. I mean, it's a giant warehouse, and there's a group of people at every table, but you look around and there's not a lot of fit people, not a lot of
Mm,
people who look healthy for that matter. And my heart does break a little bit because, again, fitness is a really, really important part of my life. It has
yeah.
been for a long time. And I haven't always been, a super lean, like Jack dude. I wasn't born to be a captain of the football team kind of a guy. I'm a good athlete. But like you, at one point, I was a 6 foot tall, 275-pound guy. So I've been very large and I've gotten down under 200 pounds. I currently float somewhere in the middle, but I'm balancing different attributes. That's a whole other nerdy thing. Does everybody need to pursue fitness in their life? I mean, I think to a certain degree we do. I don't think it needs to be an obsession the way that it is in my life. I
Mm,
don't think everybody who decides that fitness is important has to have a gym membership, for example. I don't think everybody has to win a medal at a weightlifting competition. There's a sense that there's this gatekeeping that you have to get past of, like, if you're not competing, you're not really doing anything. And I don't think that's true. I think
yeah. I think
simple
that's
things.
misconstrued. That's whole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and something we were talking about offline earlier, there's a big difference between, like, I want to do powerlifting because I'm big and I'm strong and I like to express that. And I'm not the leanest, I'm not the fittest person on the planet, but I'm good at this one thing. And if I wanted to be the best, the kinds of choices that you have to make to move up to that next level get to be really unhealthy. If you want
Yeah.
to be a really high competitive power lifter, like you're probably going to have to get on gear. And there's going to be some side effects to that. And if your
Oh, the
life isn't
magic
aligned,
cocktail.
I mean, to the people who can do it, wow. I mean, wow, what they can become and what they can force themselves to, but the cost that they pay to be that might be a little too high for most people. So I do think we have to just sort of embrace that everybody's at this place. They're at a place that they're at. And I want, for my part, to be able to give this gift of this improved confidence. Like you said, I want them to be able to play, 6, 7, 8 hour games and not feel dragged down by it. I
Yeah.
want them to not feel like they have to, compensate for a lack of confidence with these characters they create at the table. I think they can inform both. I think I have seen people who are in horrible physical shape, but were amazing gamers. And I lament the idea they might not be around long enough to continue to game because that's their true joy. And so
Yep.
I feel, fitness is a bit of a gift. It's a gift that you give yourself. And I think everybody should take their health and their fitness seriously. And I understand sometimes, you're playing, like I said, our gaming group met once a month. That might be
Yeah.
your night to have a drink, to have some chips, whatever. That can't be every night. That can't be
Mm.
your whole life. And again, whether you want to be a top competitor and pay this cost of like what you have to do to yourself to win the Super Bowl, to win that gold
True.
medal, right? What about the other end of the spectrum? The complete lack of effort is just as bad, if not worse, on your health. So we gotta meet people where they're at. I think there's a whole thing of, if a guy who's fit like me walks into a game shop, I'm gonna get side-eyed. I know that and I understand it. And I lament it. It doesn't have to be that way. I think the gaming community tends to be very open and welcoming to anybody who wants to participate. But there is still this like nerds versus jocks mentality that
Yeah.
permeates the thing. And I think it does polarize people where it's like, if you take your health seriously at all, then you're not really one of the OGs anymore. And again, doesn't have to be that way. You can do both. And going back to what we were talking about of rule systems, if you want to be a good DM, you just got to have a certain level of confidence.
Yeah.
You've got to be able to do some improvisation, right? You've got to know enough about the rules that you can kind of finagle your way through certain circumstances. And your players are always going to throw you curveballs. Sometimes they just like to test you. And you just have to be good enough and confident enough to be able to kind of spar with them a little bit. If your health is bad,
Yeah.
if you're, I think I mentioned earlier, if you just have elevated blood pressure and you don't even realize it, that can affect the way that you respond to those little jabs your players give you. It can affect the way that you interpret rules because you're just this little bit of cranky or this little bit of not feeling as good. And you might not even know that that's the case.
You might be even feeling anxiety and depression in areas of your life that aren't necessarily, they're heightened
Mm-hmm.
because of the processed foods that are being eaten. And I want to just give a quick message to our audience where like this is not a judgment.
Not at all.
This is more of a, I was a former fat guy that loved gaming with my friends, and actually my training partner was one of my players, and our gaming group played 20 hours a week because we had the time. Mind you, we also played during working hours, but that's not the point. The point is, we would get together and we would have a food adventure, right? So like we would have our normal D&D adventure and we'd have a food adventure. We'd go get barbecue, we'd go do things like that. So like we weren't going ham and banana sandwiches with like, bags of Doritos.
Yeah.
But, we were still spending time with friends. And I mean, we were eating a bunch of different awesome food from local areas and we had a great time. But what I started noticing, and to your point, was I was crankier
Yeah.
about certain things that my players did. To go to the game store, and like if I had to park and walk with my minis and my books and all this stuff, I was huffing and puffing at times, right?
Mm-hmm.
And life was just not as enjoyable. So I think for folks, like one thing that I think we really, I'll speak for both of us, what we really want to solidify and drive home is that right now in today's day and age of gaming, the Pandora's box is open. Everyone knows about it.
Mm-hmm.
And with the way science and medicine are, at, we probably are going to live for a good bit of time. So why not
God willing.
live,
Yeah.
God willing, we will be living for a good bit of time. So why not enjoy that time with our family and friends playing games, right? So like the way I think about it is the healthier that I am, the longer I can collect these plastic minis and play with my friends.
Right.
Uh,
Maybe,
and
maybe if I can live long enough, I can actually finish painting all of the minis I have lined
ooh,
up.
that, yes, 110%. My pile of shame is too much. But it's
Mhm.
true though, right? Like, and what I would like to kind of talk about then is for some, and I'm going to be transparent. The way that you and I met was through the Ladder app.
Yeah.
So the Ladder app, for the folks that don't know, it's a great fitness app. There's a bunch of awesome coaches there. Bobby and Joe are my coaches, and I met Bobby and Joe via Ladder, but on Instagram as well.
Mhm.
And I said something really sarcastic to Bobby. Bobby was like, "That's really funny," and he started following me. Mind you, as I told Bobby, my brother and I had known about him since the Jim Jones days. So we
Yeah.
were like, "Man, this cat's kind of crazy. Like, this dude's like off the wall." But then I realized, oh, this guy's a huge nerd. Like,
Big,
what,
big fan.
yeah. I mean, we just got off the phone talking about the Avatar, The Last Airbender
Mhm.
stuff. Was it Saturday? And I was like, because he was telling me not to buy any of the Avatar stuff. He was like, it's really not worth it. Just buy singles. And
Yeah.
I was like kind of kicking the can. I was like, man, but I want to buy some
I
stuff.
want. Yeah.
Like I want my Aang.
Mhm.
Or I really want the cabbages guy, the guy who's like, my cabbages. That's really what
Yes.
I want.
Yeah.
Um, so, we were talking, and through the program, through Ladder, having a structured fitness regimen helped me because I didn't have to worry about programming. And then all I had to worry about was just doing the work.
Yeah.
So I say all that because I think it'd be really helpful if we talked about like easy tips and
Mhm.
routines and things that would help, those in the nerd community who, and let me just put this disclaimer. I think everyone in this community wants to live long enough to play games all their life. But I also think that everyone wants to be the hero in their own adventure. And my
Yeah.
buddy from Phoenix training, I'll put the link. I'll link him and mention him in the show notes. But he's mentioned it all the time, and that's who I picked it up from. Where like everyone wants to be the piece, the hero of their own story, and no one is willingly choosing to be unhealthy. Just like
Right.
no one chooses to be anxious and depressed.
Mhm.
Like no one chooses that. It happens sometimes to people, right? So what in your or how in your opinion is that like, or what does that look like? Right? How do we get from, okay, I want to make a change, but I
Mhm.
don't know how to make a change
But I
because
think it's important to
it's
recognize
intimidating.
I think people don't even know what needs to change. They just know
Mm,
that there's something that I'm unhappy about. It could
mm,
be your appearance, it could be the way you feel. And you might not it's not about being like a superficial person of like, oh, I got to look like, Brad Pitt in Fight Club in order to have value. Like I don't even think it's
yeah.
that, but like we
Yeah.
we know if we're not authentically ourselves, if we're halfway to where we know we could be, there's going to be this sense of dissonance. And I think that is important to recognize. And I think to what you said earlier, it's important to say too, like part of the reason why fitness is so important to me is because I do value people,
Yeah.
right? I love the people that I train. I love them deeply. I love the people I game with. I love them deeply. What amazing, creative, funny people just amazing to spend time with. And selfishly, I want more of that. And I want them to open up more and to do more and to be more. And I think the only way you can do that is from the ground up. So if we consider this like the hierarchy of needs, your physicality is a very important base level of who and what you are. If we want to get to that higher self stuff, you can't ignore the bottom layer of that pyramid.
True.
So just like you need, food, water, shelter, like you have to have some handle on your physical health, because when that starts to go and you are so unhealthy that you can't even game anymore, like that's rough. And I don't want that for people who are so invested in this. So let's just look at it as that. We have some sense that something needs to change. We don't really know what, we really don't know how. And what I want to say is if you're in this community in any way, shape, or form, whether it's D&D, whether it's Magic the Gathering, whether it's some other TTRPGs, whatever that is, you have a capacity to really engage in something. So all the tools you need are there. Now what we need to do is we just need to apply them to something else. And so what if, instead of looking at this of like, okay, I have to either and this is a big thing in the industry, is people like, I got to go to like a 30-day boot camp and just like go hard and just like punish myself for being overweight. Throw that idea out. What if we just started with a very, very simple question? And I'll use you on this, Brian, because this will work with anybody at any level. Here's the question. What are 3 things that you could be doing better when it comes to your health and fitness right now?
I can definitely hydrate more. I can definitely clean up some of my food choices, or at least clean it up and time it better.
Mm-hmm.
And then third, let go a little bit. I sometimes become really and it's the GM in me. I like to categorize everything. I like to just do so much.
Yep.
And sometimes I got to let the improv happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like plan for those occasions, right? Like I know my players, we joke around that it's war crimes and misdemeanors. Like if our D&D game was a streamed show, we would be called Star Wars, the Clone Wars, War Crimes and Misdemeanors, because that's what we do. And I plan for those, but since I don't know what war crimes or misdemeanors are going to be caused, I kind of improvise. And I need to do that more with like my nutrition, right? And especially like I have 2 kids.
That's a great thing to bring up, because the best laid plans are always going to, like, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth, right?
Yep.
That's a Mike Tyson, attributed to Mike Tyson quote. And having kids is a perfect example, because I want all the garbage out of the house. I want only healthy food in the house. But guess what? I got 2 kids and all they eat is chicken fingers and Eggo waffles. Like, you can't
Those
just
do
throw
slap.
that stuff. They do slap. They go well together, believe it or not.
They really
chicken
do.
and waffles.
That's right.
But you don't always have 100% control, and sometimes you do have to learn how to roll with the punches. But let's use these 3 things as examples, because I mean, if I were to tell you what are things I could do better, hydrate is one of them. And I've been at this game full time as a professional for decades at this point, and I still know something as basic as hydration. Like, I have a water bottle, it's over there, it should be sitting right here. Like, why isn't it sitting right here? I'm a little bit thirsty right now. I should have access. So what if you kept your water bottle full right next to you at the gaming table?
Yep.
You're already making an effort, right? You go to work, have your water bottle on your desk, right? Like, just make one effort and focus on just that one thing for like a week. Nerd out over hydration, right? Nerd out over, where's my water bottle? How much water am I drinking? Am I getting half of it drank? Am I drinking the whole thing? Like, keep track of that stuff. And then that isn't the problem. Then a week later, I ask you, what are 3 things? And you're like, well, the hydration thing's kind of under control now. So I got to come up with something else. But just imagine now, you're getting ready to DM. You've got your water there. What if you had, instead of a thing of Chex Mix at the table, what if you had like a vegetable plate? It's
Yeah.
a step in the right direction, and you might get used to having it there. And you might find, which I found years ago, I prefer snacking on like celery sticks. There's just a satisfying crunch. There's more water that helps with the hydration thing, right? Like red peppers and those veggie trays you get pre-made at the grocery store. Like, oh my God, I could sit there and eat peppers all day long. Like that suddenly becomes like, now I'm getting more vegetables in my diet. I'm replacing Oreo cookies with something a little bit healthier. I'm getting more hydration. And then just like you said, now some of the stuff isn't a specific fitness thing that you can do, but it's more behavioral.
Yeah.
I'm out at a restaurant. Okay. I've got this menu of things to do. Like, what am I going to order? Normally, I would order X, Y, and Z, but maybe today I'm getting the chicken breast, throwing it on a Caesar salad. There you go. Now you're starting to make better choices. You're starting to learn how to improvise on that stuff. We talked about earlier, you've got no time. You're hungry. You haven't eaten all day. Are you just going to swing through the drive-thru at a fast food restaurant? It could take you 10 minutes to walk into a grocery store and buy an entire rotisserie chicken for like $6.
I was just going to say the hack that I have done, especially with my family, is okay. And especially now that it's colder, right? You can get yourself, chicken pot pie is pretty famous here in the South. You can get yourself a rotisserie chicken, a bag of peas and carrots, and you could even put edamame beans in it. You could put green beans in it. You could put whatever other vegetables and a pie crust, and you can do that for probably cheaper because there's going to be more servings than like a Marie Cal, whatever her name is, chicken pot pie that's like ultra processed and just ultra and it's not the best choice. But with that being said, you could also eat dinner before you play. You could eat a big meal of like, hey, like this, what I mentioned about my food adventures with my buddies. Food adventures was our time to say, hey, we're going to get together. We're going to hang out. We're going to catch up, but we're going to actually eat a meal before we play. So we were able to make some decent choices before our game together. You could do that with your friends. Carve out an extra 30 minutes to an hour to maybe make some food, grill some chicken and some steaks, or grill some burgers, for game night. Or if you have a smoker, smoke some food. Lots of simple choices in that regard too. Like it's,
well, there's something to like social eating where it's constantly bad choices. It's like pizza, let's order Chinese. Like what if we decided that we deserve better than cheap delivery pizza and somebody actually made a meal from scratch and fed the whole group? Like,
true.
do you not deserve good food? Is that like the thing that every time we're trying to celebrate, we have to make bad choices? And if you're going to eat less food overall, because you're trying to lean out, you're trying to gain weight, or you're trying to lose weight, you're going to eat less overall food. Keep the good stuff in your diet.
Yeah.
Right. Keep the ribeye steak and throw out the crappy French fries that you would have with it. Throw out the junk food, but keep the healthy food first. That's the important stuff. And honestly, it's the good stuff. So keep the good stuff and remind yourself you're working hard, right? You're taking your gaming seriously. You're taking your health seriously. You deserve food that supports that. So you don't have to settle for garbage. We were talking earlier, Korean barbecue. If you've never had it, it's outstanding. It's pretty freaking healthy. You're going to get a ton of vegetables with every style of kimchi and vegetable that goes with Korean cuisine, which is amazing anyway. And then basically a pile of meat that you get to cook yourself. It's like kind of hard to beat. And when you eat like that and you recognize like what good, healthy food not only tastes like, but how it makes you feel, and the strength that comes from that, from being on a very clean diet, like you start to feel more energy. You're not winded walking up the stairs. You're
Yeah.
able to stay focused sitting at the table. Like those little things start to add up, and then it becomes a
Mhm.
snowball. And then it becomes like, well, okay, these little efforts that I made of just trying to improve my hydration, just trying to improve the food that I've eaten, they start to become, what if I took a walk? What if I got into some resistance training and just got a couple of dumbbells and followed a simple program for a while? It can be absolutely life altering if you let it. If you try to force it, it's not going to be a good time.
Yeah.
You're not going to throw yourself into the fire. As Bobby likes to say, you're not going to go swimming in the pool of shadows and try to like tear your soul into a Horcrux over fitness and expect to actually stay consistent with that effort.
Yeah.
Everybody shows up on Monday, but who shows up on Tuesday, really?
Yep.
And of the people who show up Tuesday, who's still showing up Wednesday? It falls off fast. And you just
Yeah.
need to be the kind of person who says, well, look, I'm not trying to set the world powerlifting record. I'm not trying to become an Olympic athlete in all of this. My goal should be to spend 15 to 20 minutes every day doing something good for my physicality. And that could be as
Mhm.
simple as take a walk, mastering push-ups, sit-ups, squats, simple basic movements that you can do if you take the time to do it. You can learn how to do them. There's a ton of programs out there. There's a ton of coaches out there who can get you your first push-up, who can teach you how to squat, even pull-ups. That's a big thing for people. It's like the Mount Everest of fitness.
Yeah.
But like, imagine if we lived in a world where in order for the city bus to move, everybody had to do 5 pull-ups.
Wow. Yeah.
Everybody would do pull-ups and nobody would think it was that impressive. And so it's like, if you change your perspective about like what you're trying to do with fitness and what it means to be fit, where it isn't different than brushing your teeth.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same. Nutrition is the same way. Like, I don't take days off from brushing my teeth because I'm so bored with brushing my teeth. I don't have to change the flavor of my toothpaste every week because it's just not interesting to me. It's just something I do because I understand the importance of dental health.
Yeah.
Well, taking a 20-minute walk each day can be just as important and just as simple. And it just costs the time. And if you start doing it, I promise you, you will find that use of time is worth it.
You
It's
can actually
100% worth it.
even prep. If you took 20 minutes a day for walking, that's 20 times 5 days. So that's what? I don't even know. That's an hour.
It's 100 minutes that you would put in.
Yeah. It's an hour and 40 minutes of prep for your game.
Yeah.
Right then and there. By just talking about it, thinking about it, just getting kind of all the like things out of the way. Right.
Yeah.
And I like my personal, and I'll give you, and actually this will be fun. I'm going to give you my daily rundown.
Sure.
You can score me. You can do whatever you want.
Judgment time. Here we go.
You can judge me. So for the folks out there, especially the dads, I'm going to talk to you all. Because we, once I became a dad, my perspective completely changed. And I empathize with a lot of fellow dads. Not that I'm not compassionate with those who don't have kids or whatever, but I was there and I realized, oh my gosh, I had so much more time before kids that it's insane.
Quick example. You got to get somewhere. Let's say you have to be there. You got to leave by 4:00.
Oh,
you have to start getting ready at 3:30. And I mean, just like you got to put your shoes and your jackets on so we can get out the door.
Yes.
Like, you got to plan ahead, because if you think you're leaving at 4:00, you ain't leaving at 4:00.
No, you have to get the kids ready by 12, because that means like you have to feed them, change them especially if they're still in diapers, like feed them, change them, or don't actually get them dressed, because if they spill something on that shirt, you're like, you cretin goblin.
This guy dads over here.
Dude, I dad too hard. But I wake up at 4:30 and I come downstairs. My pre-workout's ready, by the way. So I prepare a lot at night. And mind you, am I sacrificing a little bit of sleep? Yes. Realistically, yes. But I will set up my pre-workout after dinner and get all that set, put the kids to bed, do stuff either prep or read. As you could see, right there, I have the new Draw Steel books.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic system. So I'll do that or do something for the podcast. But I'll wake up at 4:30 and be working out by 5 because I'm going to drink my pre-workout. I'm going to get my space ready to work out, which, mind you, I have one, two, three. I have 4 sets of dumbbells, a bench, jump rope, an ab mat back in the day, uh, a foam roller. I said jump rope, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
Mm-hmm.
Some kettlebells. So I want to set up my space because if I leave it out, my kids will take it over, claim it like the
Yeah.
orcs claiming Osgiliath, and it's a disaster. There's going to be a
Exactly
broken
like
toe.
that.
There's going to be a broken toe somewhere. Mind you,
Mm-hmm.
I used to work out in the afternoon and they loved it. They would work out with me, but I work out starting at 5 in the morning. And most of the workouts on Team Maximus are like 40 minutes, give or take. So by
40
6,
is our goal, depending on the series we're in. But yeah, I mean, under an hour, easy.
it's under an hour, which works for me. There's other plans out there. You could do 15, 20, 30-minute workouts, whatever. But for me, it's 40 minutes, which, by the way, that's right. I can watch some anime because it's me time. So
Mm-hmm.
nerd thing right there. I can watch Critical Role. I can watch the new Fantastic Four, Alien Covenant. I could watch any of the nerdy things that I don't want to be around. Like I
Yeah.
don't want to expose my kids to Alien. That they're 4 years old. They're going to
Yeah.
have nightmares until Kingdom Come. Um, and then my breakfast is prepped, so I have my frittata waiting for me tomorrow in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, I'll make a protein shake with it because I try to hit half of my protein goal in the first part of my day. Because if I eat in the afternoon, I get really sluggish.
Mm-hmm.
I just get really tired. So I eat, in the morning. Frittata protein shake made with like milk. I drink raw milk because I just enjoy it. I enjoy some of the benefits, but I also drink and eat a lot of fermented foods. So I'll have kimchi with my breakfast. I'll have yogurt,
Mm-hmm.
like Greek plain yogurt. Um, and then I do a little honey with my breakfast because just with the plain yogurt, it does take a little bit of the sourness off. And
Yeah.
I get really bad allergies. Like I overproduce histamines.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the reasons why I have like bad migraines. Part of the reason. So the local honey helps me with my allergies, especially in the springtime. I'm
Yeah.
like a walking congestion in the spring. So, I'll eat that, but frittata with a bunch, if I can get arugula from my garden, great. If I can't, it's spinach just because it grows better in North Carolina.
Mm.
And honestly, just I toss in whatever vegetables I can because I enjoy the flavor of mushrooms like a
Mm-hmm.
hobbit. I enjoy, certain flavors like roasted red peppers. Though that's just, I mean, you can't go wrong with that.
Yeah.
And then I alternate because my wife does like to bake. That was 100% a COVID thing that she learned and loved to bake. So if she bakes some sourdough, I might have it because also whether I choose to have it or not, the kids will have it. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like a half-eaten slice of toast that I'll just like put onto my plate. But I really enjoy having dates and goat cheese
Mm.
with it's something about the flavor combo with the eggs and all. It's just really good. And then I'll have my cup of coffee at work with some water and just drink that until if I have lunch. And really lately, I haven't been having lunch. So that's, I think, subjective, right? Because like I don't get physically hungry. I just
That
kind of listen to
that's
my body and
yeah.
chill. And then dinner, it might be a bowl of chili,
Mm-hmm.
meat, beans, bunch of peppers in there. just because I like my chili spicy. So I'll add extra stuff. Like I have some pickled jalapenos that I'm going to put in there. So I like that. My wife makes bulgogi, so she'll
Hmm.
and she'll make that, and I'll have it with kimchi, and I might have it with rice. But I listen to my body now, right? Kind of going earlier, like I am obsessive about certain things, and I've learned to just be a little bit more. Let's listen to my body. I feel good about it. I feel decent about
But
it.
here's what I'll say about your routine. You're doing a lot to make the hard choices more convenient. Like
Yes.
having your
Yeah.
stuff prepped ahead of time. It's like now you have a choice between this meal that is like prepped for you. You know, like your pre-workout is already right there. There's no thinking about like, oh, okay, now I have to go make the pre. It's already there. It's so easy to just pick it up and go. And once you've had that, you're already on your way. I always say the hardest thing is that first step. If you're sitting
Yeah.
on the couch thinking about like, gosh, I need to work out, just stand up. And now you're on your feet. Just walk. Like you're
Yeah.
already on your way. Like you already started the movement. Go. And so you've set yourself up so that it is much easier to do the healthy thing. It also
Mhm.
sounds like you're really a creature of habit. You're having very
I am.
similar things every day. So there's
Yeah.
not a lot of choice, but that also simplifies food prep. It simplifies when you go to the grocery store. But it also sounds like you're not suffering. You really enjoy the food that you're eating, and the
Mhm.
food that you're eating is good and healthy anyway. So it's making you feel good.
Yeah. And the reality is too, like after, so like when the family, like after mass, we'll like they have like cookies and they'll have
Mhm.
stuff like that, and like I can't eat chocolate. It nauseates me and makes me hella sick.
I have a very good friend who is not a fan of chocolate, but and this is a little side story. It's fun. He loves peanut butter, like crazy about peanut butter.
Ooh.
But he had
Yeah.
this girlfriend one time who pulled the best prank ever. But she got a bag of M&Ms and a bag of Reese's Pieces, and she poured the M&Ms in the bowl, but then left the wrapper from the bag of Reese's Pieces out on the counter. So he came in, grabbed a handful, chucked them in. Then he realized obviously it wasn't Reese's Pieces, and he spit it out of his mouth all over her new carpet. So she learned a
Nice.
valuable aesthetic. But I thought that was a really funny prank for somebody in that situation. So be warned.
In the diabolical, that's what it is. Yeah, it's just I don't like chocolate, but
Mhm.
like if they have an oatmeal raisin cookie, I'm gonna eat one.
I always say
And
there's a time and a place for treats. And like you don't again, I'm not trying to be Michael Phelps and win like what 23,
no.
24 gold medals. Like I
Yeah.
just want to be like fairly lean. And if I'm looking at myself in the mirror and I'm like, man, I look good, I feel good, like things are good in life. And like you said, it's Donut Sunday at church. Yeah, sure, why not? You
And
know?
it's living a 90-10 or 85-15 lifestyle where
Exactly.
like
Think of this. Think of this. This is a great quote that I heard. You don't need 100% of the benefits of a particular diet. You probably only need 70 or 80 for most people. So
Mhm.
think about something very restrictive, like a paleo diet, where
Yeah,
you're like, I'm only going to eat things that fit this particular set. Well, like the
paleo
one,
zone.
yeah, like the 100% thing is like you have, some autoimmune disorder and you
Yes.
have to
Yeah,
eat a very restrictive diet to help maintain that. Well, then you
correct.
better be strict. Then those donuts are completely off the table. You don't even get that choice.
If you
But
have
I don't
Hashimoto's, you should
yeah,
probably have a restrictive diet.
but
If
I'm
you
a
Yeah,
generally healthy person. I've got a
yeah,
lot more wiggle room. And so some of that social you said your gaming night, if it's once a month, yeah, you can indulge a little bit, but that doesn't mean you have to stuff your face with bad choices. You can
mhm,
have better choices available too. If it was half and half, you would be better off than if it was all bad stuff,
yeah,
right? So like there's
yeah,
there's room in there to wiggle a little bit. You don't have to suffer through a health and fitness regimen. And that's what I'm hearing is you're not suffering through the day. The way that I tend to eat, I'm very much a creature of habit. I'm up in the morning, I have a cappuccino, but instead of milk, I actually do it with like a protein shake. It's
yeah.
really good. It's a treat. But that starts the day with the protein already. Like you said, if I can get half my goal halfway through the day, like I'm on my way. I eat like a bird most of the days. Like I don't usually eat until after 2 or 3 o'clock. And that's
Yeah,
just because I have that cappuccino in the morning. And then I will drink protein coffee. I call it my Witcher brew, right? Because Witchers, they have to have their special potions
that's
to
right.
give them
That's
like
right.
superpowers. So mine, it's like instant coffee with protein powder and creatine and chocolate
Nice.
salt from Element. It's delicious. I love it. And I sip on that throughout the day. And that just kind of keeps me going. I'm doing my work. I got to get my workout in the morning. I have a whole recovery thing I do because this is my full-time job. So, I mean, take everything I say with a grain of salt. You don't have to work out 2 hours a day. I can. That's my job. That's part of what I have to do.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
I get my workout in. I've got a whole recovery regimen that I go through. And then I do have actual work that I have to do. And it keeps me busy. As long as I'm busy throughout the day, I'm not snacking. And
Yeah,
eventually I will hit sort of a lull. And it's like, now it's time to go get my Denver omelet. And the end
yeah.
of the day is where I like to always try to do something really good. As an example, today I had a baked salmon that I make a killer baked salmon, by the way. So I
Nice.
made a baked salmon and an acorn squash.
There you go.
Pretty solid. Like, again, I'm not suffering. Tomorrow, maybe I have a ribeye steak with a baked potato. Not suffering on this diet at all. Like, I'm eating good, like really good meals most of the time. And I think that that's important. It's not a matter of like, oh, you can never have fun. You can never have delicious food. You have to suffer, suffer, suffer in order to lose weight is a really, really bad approach because you cannot sustain it. But
Yeah.
when you make it convenient to make a healthier choice, then it starts this feedback loop of like, yeah, I did one healthy thing. Now I'll do another. Now I'll do another. And eventually you might find yourself completely obsessed with doing healthy things, which is not the worst thing that you can nerd out over.
No, and honestly, like I take a step back and I think, okay, like for that person listening to this, like where would you start? And I think to myself, okay, first you could start, like you said, get off the couch.
Mm-hmm.
Just take a like
Stand up.
just stand up. And from there, let's say you don't want to go to a gym. I highly understand that.
Yep.
You don't have to go to a gym.
Mm-mm.
Hell, I don't go to a gym. Like I said, or rather, like you said, I make everything convenient in my life. My gym is downstairs. So you could be in an apartment building and you might have a gym there. Great. I've worked out in plenty of hotel gyms that were way fancier than my gym at home. Okay. But with our program, what I've really liked about it, which this is kind of part of like what I wanted to say, was do some push-ups, do some squats.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're not confident in the squat, do a box squat from your couch. Like,
There
and,
are
and
progressions. Like I
explode.
said, there are progressions. And everything builds on everything, right?
Yeah.
If I can teach you, if I can get you to the point where you can do one solid push-up, the sky is the limit on what we can have you do from a physical standpoint. If I can get you the mobility, the stability, and just the confidence to do an appropriate body weight only air squat, my goodness, the levels of fitness that we can carve with just that one movement are unimaginable to most people. It's not crazy complicated.
Mm-mm.
It's very simple. It's actually my Instagram post I put up today. It's simple. It doesn't mean it's easy. And
No.
people get confused like, oh, you can only get so fit doing push-ups. Like, ask a gymnast. Watch an Olympic caliber gymnast and tell me, how fit do you get just doing body weight only stuff? Like, it's insane. And again, that isn't even our goal at this point. We just
No.
have to give you a vocabulary of movement that we can start building a world of fitness with.
Do you think social media has made it where, like, okay, I think about like the average viewer of this podcast that will be on Instagram, sees a lot of nerd stuff, and then probably sees a fitness influencer because that's the algorithm.
Mm-hmm.
And that fitness influencer, no offense to them, the fitness influencer meaning, but there's some 20-something-year-old, no kids, no real
Yeah.
responsibilities, probably on gear, probably not, but their time is spent doing this. And it's, again, social media is making it seem where they have to look like this. Do you think that's part of the problem, or do you think it's deeper than that?
I'll take a different approach. And this has been, my battle of trying to market ourselves on social media, and being a male trainer in the fitness sphere, trying to reach out specifically to men is really frustrating. It's just very, very difficult. But here's what I will say, because there are a lot of bright points in
It's
all
because
of
you need
this.
some thirst pictures, bro. You need some thirsty pics.
Not the kind of attention that actually leads to people joining the app. Unfortunately, we've tried this before.
Dang it.
I mean, I post some good. My posts are good. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
There is probably now more good information available if you can sort through it. There's a lot of trash. There's a lot of that V-shred nonsense that's out there.
V-shreds.
That it is nonsense. It is trash. It is garbage. It is fake as hell. It preys on people's preconceived fears and notions about what fitness is supposed to be. But if you know what to look for, kind of once you wedge yourself into that space, a lot of the coaches that I know and respect all kind of run in the same circles. And so a lot of the information I see on my social media feeds, because I am connected with some of the best coaches and trainers in the world, is really good. There's stuff I take notes from people like, oh yeah, I hadn't thought about this that way. But they do the same to my information, where they're like, oh, I love the way that you said that message. And that's kind of what really helps build a strong community of really, really good, like-minded people, right? The other side of it is the user side. And this is the never read the comments part of this discussion, because you get down into the comments and it's like, especially men, especially guys over the age of 35, they all think they know everything about fitness. Yeah. And there's this real thing. Bobby always has posts about this of like, yeah, they just see red and then they turn into this unbeatable monster. And it's like, that's not true. You don't see red and you're not unbeatable. You can't walk up the flight of stairs without getting out of breath. You're not going to be able to fight your way out of a paper bag.
Oh, dude. And like, I remember, so I don't talk about this often, but I was actually attacked by like a homeless guy. Like just really aggressive. It was just really aggressive. But he saw red and I did not. My years of training jujitsu, my years of training a little bit of judo as well, like just kicked in, even at a heavier weight. Oh, dude, like hip throw and reaped the knee. The dude was like flying. He did like, it was like textbook, like perfect execution. And I did not see red. In fact, I saw a multitude of different colors and the full spectrum, you would even say. And I say that with a light joke, but it was
very true.
It is. I don't
let me give you some self-defense. This is for the viewers. This isn't for you specifically, but this is how I want you to think about self-defense. And again, this isn't coming from some slouch. All right. Lots of martial arts experience here. I've also worked very, very closely with Tony Blauer, the inventor of the spear system. And so I have a lot of just like passion around this notion of what would you do in a situation. The best self-defense tactics, tips, tricks that I ever read had to do with what you should do if you're ever attacked by a bear. So let's just imagine this scenario. You're walking through the woods, man or bear, it's a bear and it attacks you. What do? Like you got to like gouge its eyes. If you can grab a stick or a rock and use it as a weapon, you need to do that. You need to be loud and you need to not stop fighting because that thing won't stop until you do, right? Like you got to keep going at it if you're going to have any chance at all. And realistically, you're probably going to be injured. You're probably going to need medical care when it's over. And if you kind of understand that going in, you understand like, man, you got to fight like hell with everything you've got. You got to fight dirty. You got to be loud. You got to be obnoxious. You got to be everything that
you're
bear,
from Pakistan.
but you got to be everything that bear does not want to have a piece of. Now take that same advice and tell me what happens if you're in your home at night and there's a break-in and somebody attacks you. Why would we use different tactics in that scenario?
100%. It's one of the reasons why, like, let's just say I'm a good old Southern boy. And there's a reason why I think a certain way. And like, yes, some people may not like that, but I've been in the woods when there are bear, and I in a 400-pound black bear, like
And a black bear is not even the scary one, but a 400-pound black bear is still pretty friggin' scary.
they get scared of you unless
Mhm.
there's cubs around.
Oh yeah,
And when
different
there's
scenario.
cubs around, you better pray to God that you are quick on your feet and that you can do what you have to do. And especially like whether you're in a hunting scenario, whether you're in a
Mhm.
hiking scenario, because hiking is a great low effort, low cost tool to implement. But you better pray that those boots of yours are going to be able to get you out of there one
Yeah.
way or the other. And like the way I think about it is because the breaking the kind of the danger scenarios. If you are physically fit for a danger scenario, right? Oh, like life or death,
Mhm.
you're going to be fit enough to go and let's say you're the first responder.
Yeah.
Someone you
Yeah.
see an accident and you're the cleric of that accident. You're the healer, right?
Yeah.
If you and because you never know. When I was in my car accident, which you were one of the first people I talked to about that, like my neck, yeah, I was a little stiff, but all the neck training that I've done and that we've talked about, like, oh yeah, that's right, it proved to help.
Yeah.
That was a life or death. It was quasi life death because the guy hit me from the side. He
Mhm.
didn't hit me on my side, right? He hit me on my passenger side. But I was launched 100 feet into a ditch that was 20 feet down into a gas station.
Yeah.
Like, and that's right. Like, yeah, my car was totaled, but I literally got out the door and walked out. Like, I was able to walk out and see my daughter, and I will always remember her little face because she was like she didn't know what happened. And
Mhm.
my daughter is like, she's on the spectrum, so like for her she was smiling, but it was I'm scared, but I'm not going to show that I'm scared until like I actually hugged her and she knew she was safe and she could kind of process that. My son was eating a pancake in the car. He was like, all right, bro, I'm
Oh.
good. Like I was like, and the kids weren't in the car, but
Mhm.
they, again, I was healthy enough to basically get up, walk, let the adrenaline dump,
Mhm.
and walk to my family, right? And I don't think if I was not healthy, if I was 270, I probably would have had a heart attack. Just
Yeah.
that fear, that rise and spike. And again, this is real life stuff, right?
Mhm.
I'm not trying to fight in one championship or the UFC. I'm not trying to, fight. I'm not trying to grapple Gordon Ryan for the love of God. Like, I'm not trying to do any of that. I'm also not trying to win a Super Bowl. I'm
Mhm.
trying to live as long and as fruitful as possible. And life gets in the way, right? Car accident. You can trip. I mean, you're in you're kind of in the truer north than I
I always say
am.
I'm north of the wall.
Yeah, you're north of the wall.
Yeah.
And like you have to worry about ice.
Mhm.
I don't. But let's be honest, how many people do you know have slipped on ice?
All of
Like,
them.
yeah.
All of them.
So that's a real predicament. Or let's say for the folks listening that live in a big city, okay, if you got to walk somewhere to your next bus station, wherever you got to go, it's important. And I think the
Yeah.
big thing that folks need to realize, and especially with, we've been kind of yapping for a long time, like, I want folks to kind of get this into their heads. Like, if you want to game more and be more fruitful in gaming, consider becoming the adventurer in your own life. And if you were to write a character sheet of yourself, what stats would you want to give it and how
Yeah.
would you get to those stats?
I think that's a great exercise. Whether fitness is your main focus or not, I think
or
just
not.
in
Yeah.
life, like
Yeah.
what do you want to be? Why do you just sit back and fantasize about it? You can live a life of adventure. And I look back at my life and I will tell you, I feel like I have lived a life of adventure. I continue to.
Yeah.
I took a whirlwind trip to London this past year. I was just in LA last weekend. I've been out to Montana a couple times working on this TV show, climbing mountains with a camera. Like I've done some pretty wild stuff. I lived in Italy for 6 weeks doing a TV show. Like don't settle. And there's a reason. If you saw me, I'm looking on my phone here. Just speaking of the Ladder app, we asked a question in the app today, which is why do you train? And some of these answers are just absolutely outstanding. But I just wanted to read my answer because I spent a good time. This was during my walk this morning. Speaking of using that time wisely, I came up with this. And so I'm going to read my answer and then I'm just going to talk about it real briefly. And I think we can kind of leave this discussion at this point because I think this
Yeah.
is sort of what we're building up to. So if you were to ask me why I train, the answer is I train because I refuse the pain of mediocrity. I am not average, and weak things break. Your physical form is the first, most fundamental thing that you are responsible for. If you cannot commit to the work required here, how can you expect to win in any higher aspect of your life? This is really the proving ground for your discipline. I don't train to feel good. You do feel good, it's nice. But I train to answer the calling, to be perpetually ready for whatever I am tasked with.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the thought that I would say if you wanted to find a reason to care or a reason to start taking action, you've got to do a little bit of soul searching. And for me, there is just this fear of average.
Yeah.
And I, like I said, I look back at my life, I look at who I am and what I do. There's nothing average about me. And that is 100% a reaction to a fear of that mediocrity, a fear that some of the gifts that I've been given will not be utilized. I do not want to bury my talents in the sand. I want to go out there and I want to experience the world and I want to bring other people up as much as possible. And that's why I say when I look at the wider gaming community, I really want to bring everybody up if I can. If it's through how I run games, how I play games, if it's through the friendships that I can build, and if I can bring just a little bit of that physical health up, man, I think what a better world we would live than this crazy madness that we've got going on around us right now. If everybody just took a little extra effort to take care of themselves.
Yeah, I mean, I think we would have better gaming experiences. I think we would have better con experiences. I think we would, we would have just better experiences in life, right?
I mean, just think of the limitations that are just keeping people from living more exciting lives, for doing more things, even just in this community. Like, man, I would love to go to a con, but that's a lot of walking. That shouldn't even be a consideration. You should go there because you're excited about it. Because
right.
let's face it, when you get a nerd geeking out about something, it's amazing to behold.
Yes.
If I can get Bobby talking about, like, he was so excited because Vivi got banned in standard. Like, he put a whole post up about it. He called me to talk to me about it. Like, that, I get excited. You know what I mean? Like, and I want that for everybody. There's so many beautiful, talented, wonderful
I wasn't
people.
excited about it, and then he got excited about it, and I was like, damn, this is cool.
I was like so what? And then I was like, oh, now I get it, right?
and I think too, like, I think everyone should geek out and be nerdy about themselves and their health and whatever hobby it is. So, like, if consider that, and again, level yourself up in the most positive way possible. Forget the people, because I do believe, like, I don't believe in toxic masculinity. I believe in toxic behavior. Like, I don't care if it's masculine or feminine. It's toxic. That's the true root, right? You have these dudes out here that are like, again, the V shreds. That's toxic. You be the Aragorn of your life.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
Be out here.
I want, let's just say this. I want more Aragorns in the world.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I want more heroes in the world. So everybody, let's step up our game because we can
Mhm.
be that. We can be that.
And I think for me personally, the first thing that you do to be the Aragorn is to just say, okay, this is where I'm at. This is where I'm at right now. Let me just stand up and let me just walk. And then from walking, pacing around your house, heck, walk while you read your book. You
Yeah.
know, walk while you're prepping your game, or oh yeah, walk, or while you're watching Critical Role, do a couple of push-ups or do some body squats or something,
Mm-hmm.
and then go from there. You're a level 1 adventurer at whatever beginning of the campaign. Consider yourself a level 1 adventurer right now in your health and fitness, and that you're going to progress upward and onward. But I think also give yourself grace and compassion. That's the,
Yes.
that's the biggest thing.
Yes.
Like we did that when we first started playing Dungeons and Dragons. We
Mm-hmm.
didn't beat ourselves up because we didn't know the rules.
Oh, we wouldn't
On
still be here.
Oh hell no, dude! You think I would have dedicated years of my life to this hobby to like talk to people and share
Mm-hmm.
with people if I got intimidated of the fact that I didn't know that divine smite, caused an extra 2d8 of damage to undead and fiends? Like,
Mm-hmm.
no. And I say that because I love paladins, and it's after 10 years of playing that specific class that I learned, oh yeah, like there's still stuff that I mess up on. We're human, right?
Yeah.
And
It's
I
a
think that's
lot of information.
it
those
is. It
books,
is a
those
lot.
books are thick.
Yeah, there's a reason why these books are thick with 3 C's. Like,
Yeah.
and but again, if we give ourselves grace as gamers, why do we not give ourselves grace as humans trying to be
Yeah.
healthy? And that's
Yeah.
where like the first part of this podcast probably seemed like we were very passionate and one would say maybe clickbaity, but that I would rather sound passionate and clickbaity because whoever's out there in the audience listening, I eventually want to play a game with you at some point at a convention. And I don't want to say, oh, user 123 that I met at Gen Con
Mm-hmm.
in 2026 is no longer with us in 2027. That would be like, for me, who I've realized that I tend to be more empathetic than maybe others, that would be like a kick in the gut.
Yeah.
And I don't want to have to deal with that selfishly. So with that being said, for folks who would be interested in your material and anything like that, where can they find you?
So my social media handle is just at Joe_Cebula, Cebula.
That'll be
I've got
linked in the description.
I've got a YouTube channel that's dedicated to gaming. I've been a little bit lax on getting new videos up, but I've been working a lot. But that's Joe_Lounge. Joe Lounge was my college nickname because my freshman year there was overflow housing in the student lounge on the floor. So that's how they identified me versus Joe up the hall.
Hey,
But
it works.
that got to be kind of my gamer name. So that's where to find me. And of course, you can always find me on the Ladder app. And I want to leave everybody with just a quote and a thought that stems from that. And the quote is from Rob Roy: "Honor is the gift a man gives himself." And then secondly, discipline is learned. And if you can meditate on that and think about what that means, I think you will find that you already have the capacity to start making positive changes in your life. And I highly recommend start with something physical and build from there. Because when you learn discipline in one aspect and the physical place is the easiest place to master it, it's gonna pay dividends everywhere else. It's gonna take your gaming to another level, your social skills to another level, your passion to a whole another level, and y'all deserve it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you all for listening to this episode. Thank you, Joe, for being on this episode, folks. You will find everything in the description, in the show notes below. Remember, to always be kind and compassionate to one another, especially during these times. It is a trial to say the least, but this is where compassion is the most important. And other than that, folks, have a great day. But as always, keep gaming.